this guy coming on now, I love him so much. Here's what I love about him. I loved him when he was on ESPN, loved him on SportsCenter, so buttoned up. And now, as a Michigan fan, I watch the Big Ten Network all the time, and he is amazing. I don't know if he's on the line. Do we have him on the line right now? Great. Joining us on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is our friend, the great Dave Revsine. Rever, how you doing, bud?
I'm great, Randy. If I'm on the Mercedes-Benz line, do I get a Mercedes? How does this work?
It's the Mercedes-Benz.
Did you work on that?
No, Dave, it's the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line, so I can maybe get you a pair of Vans. Is that okay? Can I do that for you?
Yeah, they look like the Tennessee checkerboard.
I'm in, man. I've got
great.
a pair. I love it. How excited? Okay. How excited are we? Wednesday of this week, we started fall camp in the Big Ten. It's a long time coming, and now it feels real, right?
It does indeed, yeah. So we just finished our second camp stop. I'm, in fact, sitting here parked at Northwestern staring at the waves coming in off Lake Michigan. It's really a gorgeous day.
Yeah.
We were at Nebraska yesterday. We're heading down to Champaign tomorrow.
I love it.
So we're off and running, man. It's hard to believe, but, yeah, we're watching some actual live football.
I love those camp stops that you guys do because you go so in depth into, at the beginning of camp is almost like after the draft of the NFL. There's hope in a lot of places where you say, okay, if we can just get this right, we're in year 3 of this coordinator and we can get this right, there is hope. And I do think there's hope in Northwestern. I mean, Pat Fitzgerald in the every other year plan, I always feel like isn't it like the way the ball bounces with him? It's like you're either 10-3 or 3-10, but because you got some bad breaks and because you got some good breaks, but no one can deny that he's an amazing coach.
The last 4 years have been weird. What's strange is that they had really avoided the 3-win seasons. I mean, for them, a bad year had turned into, 5 or 6 wins, which, some people went for 4 years here and didn't see 6 wins back in the day. So,
right.
Combined. So, total in the 4 years. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a little weird that 2 of the last 4 years they've won the West, and 2 of the last 4 years they finished in last in the West.
Yeah.
This one will be, I don't see them doing either this year. I could be wrong. This felt like a little more middle-of-the-road team when we saw them today. Quarterback play has been an issue in the down years. I think they're a little better there this year. And then they had a change in defensive coordinator last year. They had a guy who was here forever, and Mike Hankwitz, who was fabulous.
Amazing.
They hit a real bump in the road last year with Jim O'Neill. So we'll see whether or not he can get this group back and humming again.
I mean, Northwestern and Fitzgerald he's the type of guy to get the most out of, like, 3-star prospects, right? But they actually have a pretty good recruiting class coming in the future for 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do. They were, for a while, they signed they got commitments from a lot of their class. No one's actually physically signed them yet.
Right.
Pretty early. So I think there was a period like in June where they were like 3rd in the country.
Yeah.
That's dropped off. Dropped off a little bit.
Slow your roll.
Yeah, it's still a pretty good class. As other people have signed more players, they've fallen back a little bit. But yeah, they have a surefire first-round pick on this team. Peter Skoronski, the left tackle, is he is fun to watch. He's really fabulous. So there's some decent talent. But you're right. I mean, I think really what Fitz has done so well through the years is it's been one of the better developmental programs in the country, along with a few others in our league. Like Iowa's really good.
Absolutely.
At developing players.
Yep.
Wisconsin's really good.
Amazing.
Taking 3 stars and churning out good teams. So there are a number of programs that do it, and this, where I am today, has been one of them for sure.
I mean, Wisconsin is so good at identifying talent that Michigan got a guy who's coming in as a freshman, Jimmy Rolder from the Chicago area, and he was identified a baseball kid for years and years, and then for most of his recruitment. So he really wasn't even on the radar. But then his recruitment started picking up at the end, and Wisconsin identified him as a linebacker. And you look at the linebackers, Leo Schnell, and I mean, you're just looking at the linebackers that they have produced in the last period of time, and you'll take a guy because Wisconsin evaled them as a guy that they want, right? It's now to that point.
I 100% think that. Like, I really think that is when Wisconsin offers a kid,
Yep.
as the rest of the Big Ten, if it's an under-the-radar kid. And again, I'd say the same thing. Like, I think that's the case with Iowa. I mean, they've turned three-star guys into All-Americans routinely. So, hey, what do they see in this guy that maybe we don't? I mean, I do think that's a really good way. Certainly, if Wisconsin offers a running back, you should be aware of him.
Or an offensive lineman.
Yeah, or an offensive lineman in state, particularly. Yes,
yeah,
they tend to find some road graders.
Yep,
so
some dairy farmers.
I think that'd be a pretty good way to go about it.
All right, so you're heading down to Nebraska in a little bit.
We were there, Nebraska yesterday.
Are you there yesterday? What's the what's the pressure cooker situation? I mean, where are they with Scott Frost? Are they like, you got to win right now? Or are they like, we don't care? We were Nebraska football, and now we don't know what we are anymore. Talk about a snake-bitten guy. I mean, that guy has put his team in position to win a lot of time. I felt like their team could have been 8-4 last year if a couple of breaks go their way.
They lost 9 games, and all of them were by single-digit margins. The first time that's happened in the history of college football, Randy. And
that's
college
crazy.
Football's been going on for a long time, as you are well aware. So there aren't a lot of seasons where no one's ever done that before.
Right.
No one had ever lost 9 games by a single-digit margin until Nebraska did it last year. And unfortunately, the 9 losses tied a school record, which was set well over a half a century ago. It's not the kind of school record you want to tie. So, they got their work cut out for him. I do not think they are. I mean, he has to win this year. Now, what does that look like?
Right.
Does it look like making a bowl game? I think it depends how they win and how they lose, right? Like, I think you could have a 7-5 season that ends in an okay bowl game, and then the 5 losses you were really competitive, and I think you could say, all right, well, that's progress.
He's turning around,
and I think I think the flip side could be true, though, too. If you play Oklahoma and they beat you by 40 points, people went. Again, and that didn't happen. Again, no one beat them by 40 points last year. I'd be astonished if someone did this year. But, it's going to be an interesting team. They certainly look better when we saw them yesterday. I thought they had a good practice. He made a good offensive coordinator hire in Mark Whipple, who's a veteran guy. They were over 41 points a game at Pitt last year. So, we'll see, but no, it's no one is happy with 15-29, and that's his record at Nebraska.
Again, snakebitten. We're talking to Dave Revsine, fantastic play-by-play guy, and anchors the desk at the Big Ten Network. Does such a great job. Again, I watch so much of it because my team is there. You and our friend Mike Hall do such a great job over there. I love what you guys are doing at the Big Ten Network, and it's expanding. Coast to coast, baby. We picked up UCLA and USC. As a Michigan fan who lives in LA, I'm like, I'm going to get to see these guys out here play some in-conference games. I remember I watched your coverage of it when it happened, and you guys, it was shocking in many ways, but I think you guys all saw it for the positive that it is for the conference.
It's great for the Big Ten, Randy. I mean, I don't think there's any debate about it. You're adding 2 fabulous athletic programs, 2 institutions that, when you think about expansion, obviously, historically, we've always thought about it being in contiguous states to the rest of the Big Ten.
Stuff,
That's how they have expanded in the past.
Right.
And so I don't think I'd ever considered the notion that schools outside of contiguous states would be in play. But as soon as you kind of get yourself out of that old way of thinking, I mean, UCLA and USC are grand slams. They are much like Big Ten schools. They're broad-based athletic programs. They've had incredible success. They're both among the top 3 all times in terms of total team national championships won. Obviously, feels like they're both kind of up and coming in football. UCLA with Chip Kelly last year started to turn it around a bit, and USC made
USC is going to be great.
Lincoln Riley.
Oh yeah. And recruiting off the charts.
Oh my gosh,
the recruiting's insane.
Yeah, it's fabulous for the Big Ten. I mean, I just again, there's a lot going on in college sports right now, and what it means for some of the other conferences, and I think that it's really important that we kind of keep this a national sport, and that people are interested outside of just the top 2 leagues, but for the Big Ten specifically, it is a grand slam. I mean, they are amazing additions.
So I know this is the question, then the next question is, because you mentioned it, it's not just football. It's basketball with UCLA. They're always there. And USC at times. They're there as well. But it's baseball. It's softball. I mean, it's swimming and diving with USC. I mean, all these sports carry just major, who knows? We might even get to see a USC hockey team. You don't know. But I mean, the idea that like these they bring a lot to the table in terms of all sports. Was it mentioned the other day? Did I hear this or mishear this? The idea that did Kevin Warren say there will be no more Pac-12 teams like included in the Big Ten? Was that forever or just for right now? Because to me, a Stanford and a Cal make sense in terms of getting that San Francisco market too.
If he did say that, I missed it.
Okay, well, if you missed it, then all right.
Yeah.
Then it didn't happen.
I think what Kevin Warren has basically said is you add to your league when it makes sense.
Right.
You assess everything and you decide whether or not it's logical. And he has not. Basically, what he said at Big Ten Media Days is I won't rule out that there will be further expansion, but we're not actively in the expansion game.
Okay.
But if there's someone that expresses an interest and makes sense, then you consider it. So I think that's where it is. I mean, I don't know, Randy. I always feel like after every earthquake, there's aftershock.
Right. There's something else coming.
This is an earthquake. Whether or not the aftershock is in the Big Ten or whether it's somewhere else, who knows? But I find it hard to believe that it will just kind of settle back with those two moves. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's a fascinating time, man. And again, kind of who has the power. Which leagues are leagues that can add? Which leagues are leagues that are playing defense?
That's right. That are getting rated.
Kind of in flux.
Yeah. So we're on with Dave Revsine at BTN Dave Revsine. Phenomenal follow on Twitter. Follow him. Watch all the shows that he anchors on the BTN Big Ten Network. You're great. You're fantastic at what you do. My question is, let's say it does expand a few more teams, and that may happen down the road. What happens to a non-conference schedule? You could spend the whole time playing teams within your you can get a whole schedule out of just teams in your conference. Is it the type of thing where maybe you play one kind of tune-up game against your, not Colorado States, but you know what I mean? You play one game against a team that Slippery Rock State University, and then you're into your schedule, whatever it is, from your crossing over for a few games, and then from league, from east to west, and then you're into the meat of your conference.
I don't know how you would do it. I mean, I'm of two minds on this. I think on one, Jim Delaney said it best. He said, we want to play each other more, not less. I mean, that's the point of being in a conference.
Right.
When they went to 20 basketball games. We want to play each other more. Mm-hmm. What I would say is the incentives in basketball are to play each other more.
Right.
The selection committee rewards you for playing a difficult schedule. They don't look as much at your record as they do at who you played.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in football, it's not been that way, Randy. Like, you're eliminated from the playoff race when you lose a second game.
I know.
And I won't believe that until somebody proves to me that we're going to put a 2-loss team in. I do not think there's any incentive to schedule difficult games in the non-conference. No one is rewarding you for that. And so I think then the challenge becomes, are we cutting off our nose to spite our face?
Right.
Are we playing one another more and then hurting our chances of getting into the playoffs? So, or if you're further down in the league and you're a program that's looking to count to 6 and make it to a bowl game, right? All of a sudden, are you saying, well, now if we got to play 10 conference games,
how are we going to get those
6 wins and make a bowl?
We need 3 in non-conference or 2 in non-conference, and then a couple things to go our way in the conference, just to make that bowl game, which is important for us. So I'm with you. I don't know how it gets settled if it does expand that level. But what you're talking about and what you opened the door on the conversation, and maybe this is the last thing we'll talk about here, is the need for, I think, the college football playoff to to expand and immediately. Like, I would love to see 12 teams in there, because then you would see some of those great 2-loss teams get in, and you shouldn't be left out. Yes, then people will be saying, but what about the 13th team and the 14th team? Just like they say, what about these teams that got snubbed in the NCAA when we're picking 68? But I think they're saying it a little bit less when it expanded even to 68. So, I really believe it has to expand now. I want to wonder your thoughts on that.
I'm with you. I think particularly as we kind of consolidate power in the SEC and the Big Ten, I think it's probably more important than ever that it expands, because I do think, like, part of the genius of the NCAA tournament is that everyone goes into the season thinking they have a chance.
Right.
And so I do think that you need to make sure that college football is a regional sport that plays for a national championship.
That's right.
I mean, it's
That's right.
And it always has been. And so I think all regions of the country, like, what has been frustrating to a lot of people recently has been that it seems like all the power's consolidated in the Southeast.
Alabama and Georgia, they're going to be there this year.
Right?
Yeah, Clemson,
so
exactly.
People lose interest. And so I think the more teams you put in, the more interest that you're going to have.
I agree.
think it used to be of this mindset, but again, I just feel like if we're going to play some sort of a national playoff, you have to have it in such a way that every region of the country feels represented. And it may end up being there 4 from the SEC and 4 from the Big Ten, but then who fills out the rest of that field?
I would love to see it.
A way to have it from others.
It's Cincinnati, it's Oregon, it's USC, it's whoever it is. I know the USC is now in the Big Ten, but I mean it's other teams, or maybe it's Boise State is the 12th team. You know what I mean? One of some of those great teams. So you say to yourself, we made the playoff. That's the recruiting pitch. You go out to recruit, and you might be able to pull a kid from Texas to come come up north, as opposed to, well, forget it, he's going to A&M because this is what we didn't even get into NIL. Dave Revsine, there's so much to talk about with you, but I just appreciate you coming on the show, and good luck on the camp stops. We'll be checking all that. When are you in Ann Arbor?
Sometime the middle of next week, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. It's all a
It's all a haze.
I just go where they tell me to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
it's all a haze.
And you do a great job when you get there. At BTN Dave Revsine, follow him, watch him. These camp stops are awesome. We appreciate you, buddy, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for all your kind words, Randy. Keep up your great work, and thanks for having me on.